Right guys, welcome back to the horror video games. Today I'm talking about the paintings from Layers of Fear. Now once again, the theme of this game is that your character is a painter who's slowly losing his mind. Now the interesting thing for me is the fact that there are many paintings inside this mansion, and they're also very curious as well. For example, the baby being carried away by the eagle. What does this mean? And the dead woman in front of the family. What does this mean? And the still life of the fruit, and the desert scene with the gallows and the monster, and the Red Riding Hood cartoon. I mean, the first thing I'd like to talk about is, what does this say about your character? I mean, you have to say to yourself, are the paintings owned by the protagonist? Or is this indeed your own mansion? Are you exploring your own mansion or someone else's mansion? Are these paintings actually yours? It provokes more interesting questions because some of these paintings, they're done in the style of, say, mid-1800s, early 1800s painting, but because of the presence of the gramophone in this game, that would suggest that the era is somewhere close to late 1800s or possibly early 1900s. I think it's important for me to say that I have an art background, I went to art school, I have a degree in art, and I have an appreciation for art and art history. However, it's also important for me to state that painting is not really my area of expertise, it's not really my field, but I welcome anyone with more specialist knowledge about painting to suggest their ideas and comment on what I'm saying, because I think that would lead to a very fascinating conversation. With the example of the baby and the eagle, in the story, your daughter is kind of taken away from you, so it's kind of suggesting the painting is kind of tapping into the history of the character, as if his baby is literally being stolen away from him by an eagle. And then there's the family portrait of the dead woman or passed out woman. Perhaps this suggests the mental state of the character, how his wife has died and he's just numb and he doesn't know how to engage and doesn't know how to respond to his children. Another fantastic element in this game is when the still life painting of the fruit comes to life, and I thought this is a really fantastic subversion of the art style. It's like the still life, the inanimate objects come to life. It's like combining the two contrasting elements together, these two extremes. You don't expect these apples to move, but they're moving. This really is a very clever and outstanding use of imagery. Other interesting moments of the game are when the paintings fall on the ground and then these rats kind of run over the paintings. Now, what is the game saying here? Now, my interpretation of this is the fact that the rats represent the critics. This represents the painter's contempt of the critics who are criticising him. The thing that makes this game so impressive is just how rich the game is in terms of artistic imagery and its references to art history, and that's why I respect this game so much, because of these clear influences. Some of the paintings clearly are inspired by the techniques of Francis Bacon, and also when the paintings melt off the wall, this is yet another Francis Bacon technique where in many of his paintings, like of the Pope, he's kind of melting off the painting, and the general style of Francis Bacon is this melted kind of style, and it's fantastic how they've incorporated this style into the paintings and the kind of the scary bits of the game. I think this is exceptionally clever. And also the story and the context of the character. I mean, were the developers influenced by the backstories of real-life artists? For example, what came to mind so strongly for me playing this game was, are they referencing the life of Jackson Pollock? Jackson Pollock was an alcoholic, he had severe anger management issues, he led a tragic life and a very unfortunate life, and he was a very troubled person. So were they referencing Jackson Pollock? The style of the painter in question of your character is a Francis Bacon style, and also with the death of your character's wife, parallels can be drawn with Francis Bacon, because after the death of his lover, the type of imagery he went for was death related and also self-portraiture as well. So my theory is that what your painter character is actually doing is he's doing a self-portrait, and when the painting is complete you'll actually see a version of yourself. Now if I'm right about this, that would be amazing. And also it's important to bear in mind that the life of Picasso was tragic as well. There are many of his models that actually killed themselves. So this concept of the tragic artist is being played out in this game, and I would love to know what the developers were using as their source material Where were they getting their ideas from? What were they basing things off? What kind of art history were they using? What kind of artists were they referencing? I'd love to know what their source material was. I think if I was going to hazard a guess what year this game is based in, I would say somewhere between the 1930s and 1940s. This is based off the gramophone, and also Francis Bacon was quite active in the 30s and 40s, so maybe Bacon is actually one of your character's contemporaries. There are many interesting moments in this game, even though it's a very short experience because it's a preview. I mean, for example, the painting of the dog which sets on fire. The style of this painting reminds me quite strongly of Constable, and indeed some of the other paintings like the boat reminds me of Constable a little bit as well. And also when all the walls kind of start disintegrating in the gramophone room, the kind of style of the pattern looks a bit Turner-esque a little bit. If that's the case, then that once again is another fascinating element of this game. So we've seen different styles, we've seen Turner, we've seen Constable, we've seen Bacon. I just wonder what kind of art style might feature in the second half of the game. Are we going to see some kind of Salvador Dali-esque kind of desert environments with melting clocks and melting enemies and things are melting? That would be cool. Or how about maybe you go from the Cubist room into the Futurist room and there's a kind of nude descending a staircase like in Marcel Duchamp's famous painting or something, and the woman's coming down the stairs and she's kind of blending into the stairs, and some kind of tragic female character, she's coming down the stairs in the kind of Futurist style maybe. Or how about you walk into a kind of strange abstract room, some kind of white room and the little blocks are moving all around the place and black lines and red blocks and all this kind of stuff. So those are some of my wacky thoughts about this game, the paintings. Maybe I got a bit carried away with the art thing, perhaps, but what do you think? Any kind of art fans out there? Please let me know of my strange thoughts, perhaps, on this game. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, maybe I'm not. Anyone who's a big fan of painting, maybe any painters out there, please let me know. Am I right? Am I wrong about these art styles? Did I get it wrong? Please let me know. What do these paintings actually look like? Please let me know in the comments below. So that's the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to comment, rate and subscribe. You can tweet me at the HorrorVG. This is the Horror Video Games, and I'll see you next time.